Mic test, mic test. Mic test, mic test. Hello everybody, Zach here, tuning in live with breaking news. Potential tropical cyclone 9 has formed just east of Cuba this afternoon, this evening. Hope everybody's doing all right. It's a Friday. Yay for Friday. We have been closely monitoring this system ever since it really got going southeast of Cuba in the in the eastern Caribbean. We're now pushing into the western Atlantic, just southeast of Cuba, or just east of Cuba where the low pressure currently sits. The National Hurricane Center has issued out advisories now. You can see right below me currently is the 5 p.m. advisory on potential tropical cyclone 9, which is soon to be tropical storm Imelda. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, please somebody correct me. This is, like I said, this is a system we've been watching for. We've issued a few updates on my page here on YouTube, and now we're watching it. To my right, to your left, is the satellite image. This is infrared IR satellite. Very messy system right now. As you can tell, a lot of just moving parts. We have a lot of thunderstorm activity, a lot of rain showers. But as you can tell, it's starting to circulate around that low pressure system just east of Cuba now. That was not the case 48 hours ago. Now that we're kind of getting to the good stuff here, we are starting to get some action. So eventually this will start to wrap around that low pressure system and we'll start to move north. Just missing Florida to the east is the current forecast. I actually have a friend down in Orlando this weekend asking me, hey, is this going to miss us? And I said, yeah, it's going to miss you, but outer bands from this storm could still wash up on shore there in Florida. So if you're in Central Florida on vacation, you might have some problems there. Let's pull up the NHC track for potential tropical cyclone 9. As you can see, it is the X right there where the 5 p.m. Friday is located. That is the current location of the low pressure, so just off the east coast of Cuba. It is expected to shift north as the weekend continues, becoming a tropical cyclone by Sunday morning at 2 a.m. That is the current forecast. And then eventually pushing up, and you see those H's now by 2 p.m. Monday. So by Monday afternoon, we're expecting hurricane strength wind. We know this system is not going to be, we'll go over the intensity here in a second, but we know this storm is not going to be as intense as we're expecting hurricanes to be in late September going into October at this point. So that is good news because, again, we're in peak hurricane season. So the fact that we really haven't had a lot of action near the U.S. I don't remember what storm it was, but we had a storm that was just offshore of the Carolinas not too long ago, but can't really count that because it didn't really cause too many issues like you would expect a hurricane in September to cause. But this one we're keeping a close eye on. So as it moves north, expect to become a tropical storm by Sunday, overnight Sunday, late Saturday, and then becoming a hurricane by Monday afternoon, September the 29th, and eventually pushing all the way up, pretty much a direct shot towards South Carolina, right in the center of the Atlantic coast there in South Carolina. But as you can tell, as it gets further north, by 2 p.m. Tuesday and by 2 p.m. Wednesday, it barely moves. So the National Hurricane Center is expecting a little bit of a stall there, right? It gets north, it freezes, stays off the shore a little bit longer. That is a good news and it's bad news, and I'll explain why. It's good news because yeah, it's going to weaken a little bit, right? It slows down like that, you start to lose some strength. So as you can tell, it goes from a hurricane 2 p.m. on Tuesday back down to a tropical storm by 2 p.m. Wednesday. However, rainfall and storm surge could be an issue there as it gets closer to South Carolina and it stalls. It's hanging off the coast, barely for an extended period of time, and that is going to drop a lot of rain in that region from, even Georgia and maybe even the northeast portions of Florida, all the way up to the coast of North Carolina. That whole area looking at extended periods of rainfall and what could be some storm surge from the wind as well. So something to monitor there. If you're in South Carolina, especially if you're close to the coast, you could have multiple days of rainfall coming your way. I know that area kind of needs it. I have friends that live in South Carolina and they're like, oh man, we need rain. Well, they might get a lot of it here. But that is the current NHC track right now for soon-to-be Imelda. If we switch over to the intensity score here, so now back on the other side of me, this is from tropicaltidbits.com and Levi Cohen. This is initialized at 18 Zulu. This is the model intensity guidance. So this kind of gives us an idea of what each forecast model for hurricanes are pushing in terms of strength. And you're seeing a pattern here going from tropical storm all the way up that it's really not that strong of a system. We know the National Hurricane Center has already pushed out that it's going to be a hurricane at some point, or at least it's forecast to become a hurricane by 2 p.m. Monday, I believe I said. So we know that strength is going to at least get to Category 1, at least it's forecast right now. As you can tell, a lot of model guidance really suggesting that it stays right on the line of a Category 1 and a tropical storm. So really not an intense storm. Some of the models, which we'll go over here in a second, like GFS and the European model, were a little bit stronger. Earlier when I checked, they were pushing more of a Category 2 hurricane. Again, you have to take that with a grain of salt. You can't really trust those models thoroughly. You have to read the environment, understand tropical meteorology. Right now, forecast to at least be a Category 1 hurricane. Model guidance suggests that as well. And you have one random model shoots all the way up to Category 2, but most of it agreeing on Tropical Storm 2, low end Category 1. So let's switch over to the models. I'm going to see if I can do this successfully here. So obviously, we're now looking at the GFS, Global Forecast System. And as we push on, you see that storm starting to develop there. Make sure you guys can see that. Yeah, southeast of Florida. This is roughly early Sunday morning when it's expected to become a tropical storm. And then as it moves along here, it's starting to strengthen off the coast of pretty much Cape Canaveral, Florida there. Hopefully no rocket launches expected anytime this week or early next week. And then as it moves up, you see that other little I don't remember the name of it. The other hurricane out there in the Atlantic. Someone remind me what it's called. I know it starts with an H. But we look at our storm here that we're tracking now, becoming a 987 millibar low pressure system according to the GFS just off the coast of Daytona Beach, Florida. As it pushes right into the Carolinas, you see that tightening low pressure system there. Matter of fact, here I'll jump a little bit closer. That just makes sense, doesn't it? 978 just off the coast, which is a Category 2 in terms of pressure. So GFS a little bit stronger than what other products are pushing out. That's pretty typical, but it kind of just follows that path right just east of Florida and then right into South Carolina by this is going to be Tuesday morning. So right on track. If we go back to the NHC track, 2 p.m. Tuesday. So GFS a little bit faster. It's got making landfall in South Carolina by 2 p.m. on Tuesday or Tuesday morning. So a lot faster than what the National Hurricane Center is forecasting. I always obviously go with the NHC on any of this information because they know way more than me about this in terms of tropical meteorology. These guys are geniuses. So to recap what we got so far, potential tropical cyclone 9 soon to become tropical storm Imelda within the next 24 to 48 hours, and the first issuance of the cone of uncertainty, as we call it, that has it pushing north pretty wide cone as well, especially in the day 4 through 5 area, which is indicated by the white circle and all the dots that you see. That's the day 4 through 5. That's where things get really uncertain. You can tell by how just wide it is. I mean, that's almost 3 full states across. So a lot of uncertainty on which way the storm's going to turn. Some models have it doing a Fujiwara effect around the other hurricane that's out there in the Atlantic, and it could rotate. So as storms, 2 hurricanes run parallel with each other, they Fujiwara around, so they kind of rotate, and that could pull Imelda away from the coast. And that is why I think the National Hurricane Center is not pushing for a landfall in South Carolina. They have it stopping just short. I think that's very wise at this time. So let's go back to our models here. So this is the GFS. Once I get you back over there, this is the GFS at the 978 landfall. This is on tropicaltidbits.com if you guys want to take a look yourself. We're going to switch over to the European run, and the European run I think is agreeing a lot more with what the National Hurricane Center is pushing out. This is the 12Z, 12 Zulu. So this is the latest update regarding the European forecast model. As it moves towards, you see that stall. That is exactly what's happening on the National Hurricane Center's outlook. It just kind of freezes. However, it does have it getting down to a 980, which is, I believe, a category 1 in terms of low pressure millibars there. So I'm right on track with what the NHC has updated. So becomes a tropical storm about, late Monday going. Yes, that's true. Has a tropical storm Sunday morning-ish, Sunday afternoon, and then eventually it gets really close to Carolina, and then it freezes. But look at all that rain. Just a ton of rain coming down in South Carolina. That is going to be likely a big-time flood issue. We'll take a look at the Weather Prediction Center's flood outlooks. I think right now they only have a slight risk, if I'm not mistaken. So a slight risk for flooding right now in South Carolina, but if the storm stalls like NHC is forecast on their cone track and like the European model is pushing, you're going to get a ton of rain in there. So much rain. Let's just have fun here and see if I can actually pull up how much rain we've got here. Yeah, so that's quite a bit. Purple, so anywhere from 5 to 8 inches tucked into the Carolina area. Oh, here we go. If we go back, and now we have a little bit more realistic numbers here. So a lot of rain, so probably 5 to 10 inches worth of rain on the European model right now for the South Carolina area, because that storm system pretty much slows down. If we go back a little bit, you even see even more there. You have hints of 10 to 15 inches right along the coast, and that is a massive amount of rain in such a short time period, and that will lead to elevated risk for flash flooding, of course, as with any tropical system that's going to happen. So again, to recap, potential tropical cyclone 9 has formed. The National Hurricane Center has issued out their first advisory on the system. At 5 o'clock p.m. they did that. We got up here, we went live, and now we're talking about it. I haven't gone live in a while to talk about weather. Kind of took a break from YouTube there for a while. Here we are, talking about weather again. If anybody has any questions, please ask. We'll kind of go through everything again here in a second. Up on the screen right now is the GO-16 IR satellite of Tropical Cyclone 9, or potential Tropical Cyclone 9, which will soon be Imelda. Impacts to the U.S. East Coast, possible next week. That's using that pretty loosely. Impacts are probably likely at this point, but we're going to keep using possible until the system gets a little bit further north. It's hard to judge a system when it's like first advisory. You have to give it some time, see what she's going to do, wiggle room, and then any environmental conditions that appear later on that might impact where Imelda goes. So we don't want to obviously throw up any red flags. I do know there are tropical storm watches and warnings out for like Barbados in that area, Cuba probably as well, as the system starts to get going. Switching back over to the NHC track, and then we'll take a look at intensity again. This is the first advisory. The X marks the spot. That's where the low pressure currently sits as of 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Friday. Over here, I'll go ahead and remove the headline here for a second. Over here at the bottom right of your screen is the spaghetti model. Spaghetti model is a bunch of, again, it's just like the intensity score. It's just a bunch of models put together, and it kind of tells us where the agreement is. And so you're seeing a lot of agreement of the storm pushing up through. What effects for north central Florida? I will absolutely talk about that in about 2 seconds, Tony. It looks like right now, Tony, it's going to stay just off the coast of Florida. Anywhere along the coastline, I would expect a high risk for rip currents. So flood or swimming is going to be a major issue for areas like Daytona Beach, Cocoa Beach, all those beaches along Florida's Atlantic coast. As for north central Florida, I would expect some rain to move in as the system pushes north, depending on the wiggle room, of course. If it wiggles a little bit further east, then the rain threat for north central Florida will drop. If it wiggles back west, the rainfall threat for north central Florida would increase, and that includes the risk for flooding. Right now, not looking too much of a concern for you guys there. Maybe some wind as well. But so far, the system itself looks rather weak for a late September going into early October tropical system. Normally we're a little bit concerned, especially if this system is pushing through the Gulf, which it's not, thankfully. Completely different story if Imelda decides she wants to go into the Gulf of Mexico with those really warm waters that they have this time of year. That would be an issue. No problem, Tony. Ask any questions you have. Let's get our headline back up here. We'll switch back over to that intensity score that we were discussing earlier. Again, so far, intensity, not crazy, is expected to become a hurricane by Tuesday afternoon, 2 p.m. on Tuesday. Perhaps sooner. Or, I'm sorry, 2 p.m. on Monday, not Tuesday. Perhaps a little bit sooner. So by Monday afternoon, we're expecting Hurricane Imelda, and we're expecting by the end of the weekend, Tropical Storm Imelda. And so far, the models look like it's gonna stay reasonable on strength. Tropical storm mostly, making a run for Category 1 by Monday, and then back down she goes after she makes landfall. So, but we want to come on here and talk for a few minutes about the development and what we got going on. And we'll keep obviously a very close eye on Imelda and what it does over the next 24 to 48 hours as it makes a run for South Carolina. If we swap over to models one more time, what you're looking at right now is just the rainfall forecast, right? So this is a rainfall. I think this is Wednesday. Let me swap back over here and take a look, and then we'll look at the Weather Prediction Center rainfall outlooks as well. Yeah, so you start to see some mixing of 10 to 15 inch rainfall totals there on the European, which is likely what is being used right now. GFS is very aggressive. It's very fast, pushing almost like Category 3 per the last update. European model, a little bit more realistic, I think, with this system. As you can see, it's got it coming north, staying east of Florida there, Tony, and north central Florida. You do have some rain showers just on the European. That's kind of expected from a tropical system. And as it pushes north, it kind of stalls. It rotates back. Some rain in Georgia, South Carolina, all that rain, just a ton of rain, and then it kind of fizzles off. So that's what we're looking for. You know, we don't want any major impacts to people, to land. We know how bad I was in Hurricane Helene 1 year ago today. I was in Hurricane Helene, and very intense. We know Hurricane Helene 1 year ago today caused all those fatalities in the Carolinas. And so if you're someone from the Carolinas right now and you're watching a live update about a potential hurricane coming your way, you probably have some anxiety. While you guys look at that screen, I'm going to pull up the Weather Prediction Center and see what we got going on in terms of excessive rainfall outlooks. It looks like they have kept it a slight risk, at least with the 12Z update. Let's see what we can do here and get that up for you guys. All right, let me drag over. Here we go. So this is the Weather Prediction Center outlook. 12Z, day 5, excessive rainfall, slight risk, going from the South Carolina Georgia border all the way up into Virginia. So tropical storms, even though the eye wall might make landfall in South Carolina, there still are impacts even 2 states north. We saw that 1 year ago with Hurricane Helene, made landfall in Big Bend of Florida, Perry, Florida area, traveled across Georgia, caused all kinds of damage there, and then got into the Carolinas and caused massive amounts of flooding, landslides, major issues in the Carolinas. Then it curved west and impacted the Midwest with wind and stuff. Hey, I live southeast of Columbia, South Carolina. Not looking too good for us here. Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are okay. I mean, rain is going to be the biggest concern right now. That's just my personal opinion, and I think it's the opinion of most forecasters right now. If we go back to the National Hurricane Track, I think rain is going to be a big issue. If you like rain, you like sitting inside during the rain, this is literally heaven for you. Wind will also be a little bit of a concern with tropical storm force winds approaching South Carolina, but right now the National Hurricane Center has that storm kind of stalling before it makes that landfall, because I would assume uncertainty regarding whether it rotates back out to sea or if it continues its track into South Carolina. But straight shot basically right into Columbia, South Carolina, yes. We just got done not long ago with cleaning up after Helene. Yeah, I was just talking about that. 1 year ago today, Hurricane Helene came through the Carolinas, far northwest South Carolina, western North Carolina, and Tennessee area, where a lot of those areas will take years to recover. Fortunately, this is not going to be that intense of a hurricane. At least it's not forecast to be right now. Not nearly as bad as Helene. Worst case scenario for South Carolina is the flooding, I think. We'll obviously monitor updates on storm surge as well as the storm slows down just off the coast of South Carolina. You'll have some issue with storm surging and flooding, but all that is really, really uncertain at this time because we are still several days away from that. Yeah, I saw that. So I don't know if I should say that on air or not. This is my first time doing a live on YouTube in a long time. I took an extended break. I think at least 2 or 3 years I haven't touched a live stream on YouTube. So I was like, you know what? Now's a good time. Now's a good time to do this. If you guys have any questions for me, let me know. I'll switch it back to the intensity score real quick so you guys can see what models are kind of suggesting in terms of intensity. You see that it grows obviously as the days continue, traveling through that green section, which is your tropical storm section, and then eventually touching that category 1 hurricane strength before dying off. So not a major hurricane of any kind as of right now. Very weak sided hurricane. Hopefully I didn't just jinx it, but mostly tropical storm impacts expected to the U.S. East Coast. We'll watch the system as it moves north as the weekend continues into next week. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad I'm popping up. I used to do live streams all the time discussing this type of stuff, and then I kind of took a break. I did a lot of storm chasing over the last few years. Was in Hurricane Helene last year, a couple tornadoes since, and then kind of took a break, and here we are. I am considering going after this system. I've been on the phone with some friends about going to South Carolina and covering at least the flooding, and so we might do that. We also have to be slightly concerned about the tornado risk. It's not just hurricanes or tropical storm hazards you have to worry about. A lot of those outer bands can produce tornadoes. We see it just about every hurricane that makes landfall in the U.S. Thank you so much for the subscription. I really appreciate that. But been in contact with some friends. We're going to see fellow storm chasers, see if we can get to South Carolina probably by Monday and set up shop and document some flooding and see what we can do down there and to get you guys that information here on my YouTube channel. If not, I might live stream it. Who knows? But we'll see how things go. We'll see how Imelda, how she progresses to the north. If it really intensifies, then you'll probably see me in South Carolina on Monday. But again, the tornado threat as well is a concern, especially on the northern side of the outer band. So South Carolina, North Carolina would be where you would want to watch for that tornado threat come, Tuesday afternoon, Monday afternoon through Tuesday afternoon, which the Storm Prediction Center will start issuing out, risk in a few days about all that. Still a lot can happen. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll do a couple more lives before I head down to South Carolina to cover this, if I do. And then we might go live while we're in South Carolina, and then you guys will see videos uploaded to the YouTube channel here once we get down there. I'll probably go after a tornado threat if one does exist, and then I'll cover flooding as well, because that will be a significant story when and if this storm does end up producing tropical storm hazards. This is the current satellite view. GOES 16 infrared. You're seeing all the disorganized severe thunderstorms, or maybe not severe, but disorganized thunderstorms that are ongoing around that low pressure system. Low pressure system's on the northeast side of the eastern edge of Cuba. I know it's kind of tough, but pretty much dead center of your screen is where the low pressure currently is, and is expected to track north and eventually pass just east of Florida and get up towards the Carolinas. So we'll see. Conditions are favorable for at least tropical storm development in the next 48 hours, and then slightly favorable for hurricane strength as well by early next week. So something to definitely keep an eye on, especially if you're in the Carolinas. This is extremely important. If you're in southeast Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, you have to be paying attention to this system as it moves north, where impacts are more likely in the South and North Carolina regions. So keep a very close eye if you're in the Carolinas. All right, if nobody has any questions, we'll log out for now. We'll continue checking back in, doing some live updates as the system moves north. I'll leave it open for some questions here briefly, and then we'll cut it loose. But thank you guys so much. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these again, get back into it. And if I go to South Carolina, you're going to want to see the flood videos and tornado videos if we get any. So please subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me. But until next time, guys, thanks so much.